So life is effing cool, and little synchronicities are great. I open Instagram and immediately see a first thing that comes up, Don Miguel Ruiz quote, "Everyone is a mirror." And that is literally what so much of what has been arising here lately. But from the perspective of like non-duality and awakening, it goes so much deeper than that. It's not just that everyone is a mirror, it's that there in truth is no other. There is no other. And I just wanted to share quickly the way that that's been arising here lately is that in every interaction that I've been having, there's just something that clicked. And it's turning into this thing where I recognize that I'm talking to myself, literally talking to myself in interacting with another human being. And to the point where, like, if there's something that my mind or my conditioning is wanting to jump on the other person for, attach, or kind of judge as, well, I don't like that behavior, or something along those lines, there's like this immediate turnaround that's happening internally around, okay, there's an opportunity of a way that there's a belief here that is not yet free. There is something here that is not yet liberated, and literally using every interaction with the human being as an opportunity, which is really hard, especially in intimate relating. And that has been kind of a huge shift where, and it's very recent too, where there's this recognition that not only is the depth of that quote, everyone is a mirror, but not only that, but that there actually is no other. There is no other. There has never been another. So literally everything, especially in partnerships and in intimate relating, everything that I attract into a relationship in another human being is something that resides in me. So you don't attract what you need, you attract what you are, literally. And so just an example, something that has resided here for such a long time is kind of like a self-neglect, neglecting needs and things that are arising here, so that so sacrificing that in exchange for being overly accommodating to another and kind of folding and bending, And so in that, so there's been a self-neglect here, and so attracting energies into my life that also neglect this. And then what the identity wants to do is to kind of morph into almost like a victim role, and then point at somebody else as the perpetrator of, you're doing this, but all the while that energy is being attracted because of what is not free here. So it's literally that every interaction, moment by moment, is a mirror for the ways that I am not yet free. And that is a potent turnaround. It's a very potent turnaround. And also this realization that the Jennifer character, the identity structure that was built up over a lifetime, is literally nothing more than one kind of conglomeration, conglomerate coping mechanism for the sense of separation. And at least how that sense of separation is manifested here is like a deep unworthiness. So like this deep, fundamental belief of unworthiness, which, stems from separation, and I haven't quite gotten down to that point yet. So there's like almost like this digging down process, but then in the digging down process, as the patterns are being really deeply illuminated, so every pattern being illuminated, but what's being realized is that there's like this hub, and all of those patterns are kind of like spokes on the wheel, but there's this hub at the center, which ultimately is the belief in separation. But kind of, at least here, something that has been kind of blocking that has been a fundamental belief in unworthiness, which there's an intuition that stems from that belief in separation, or that the belief in separation is underneath that. And there's as all of those patterns are really seen through, there's like a fear that comes up every time, because there has to be a confrontation with like, oh, without this, who am I? Without this belief, who am I? It's the only way that I've ever known how to orient in the world. And especially because through this process of awakening, there's not a restructuring of the identity like there is when, we kind of just like swap one belief out for another. So there's nothing like rebuilding itself. It's just a stripping away, a dissolving, a dissolution. And so that gets really uncomfortable and triggers a lot of fear, because there's not a new thing springing up in its place of like, oh, well, since I'm not this thing, I must be this thing. Just like it would be really easy in the example of the unworthiness to say, like, there's a deep fundamental belief of unworthiness, therefore I need to go and seek to become someone who is worthy. But that's not what's happening here. It's there's a clear enough seeing that is simply the opposite thing, and it's only going to feed that unworthiness wound, because why am I seeking to become someone who is worthy? It's because there's a fundamental belief of unworthiness, whereas what's happening here is digging down into that taproot and actually kind of pulling that out by the root, and then every pattern that has kind of grown out of that crumbling underneath it, toppling. So it's very uncomfortable, but that has really been coming forth really strongly, that not only is everyone, everything, every situation a mirror, but that it is so because there actually is no other. There was never another. It's me, I, talking to itself, recognizing itself, seeing itself. And that identity is really the only thing that's in the way. And like once that starts to be seen through, really fundamentally, not just, so there, previously there was a, I guess maybe more of a mental or intellectual understanding of that, there was kind of an opening and realizing like, oh, I'm not these beliefs, but looking at, so I heard a teaching today that I really loved by Adyashanti. I reference him a lot, but that if you actually look at the stories that are living your life, like how are you actually living your life? Because if you can say all day that I don't believe this thought, I don't believe this, I know that I'm not this, I know that I'm not this, but if those things are actually still, in reality being lived out, like you can say all day long that you don't believe them, but if those patterns are literally being lived out over and over and over, then the patterns themselves do not yet know that they are not true. They have not yet physically been liberated out of the body. And so that seems to be what's happening here now, is that the actually liberation of those energies, versus just a kind of perpetual spinning in that loop of, well, this isn't true, I know this isn't true, this isn't true, this isn't true, because I could spend a lifetime doing that and denying something, ultimately, denying the truth of something. And it's not that it's not that they're not true. So those beliefs are not true. That's correct to say that those beliefs are not true, but they have not yet realized their falseness. Otherwise, they would not still be continually looping over and over and over, and causing dysfunction and suffering and chaos and, all of the things that they tend to cause. So that's been a pretty big shift, and I'm really curious about that. And there's almost like this has been here for a while, but more so now, because the the more each one of these things topples, it's like there's a deeper opening and this super incredible sense of freedom that I'm just like, fuck it, like let's see what else we can dig up in here. And there's almost like this deep, like childlike curiosity and almost like excitement. And I don't know if that's quite the right word, but that's the only thing that I can think to describe it, but almost like an excitement of like, yeah, let's see what else is in here. Let's see, you know, what other falseness we can unearth. And just like this, yeah, it's actually really wonderful. It's so freeing. This obviously, like that's what this is the energies are liberated. It's just incredible, honestly. Like you know, there's so much movement happening in life right now, and like so many things changing, like major relationship changes happening, and just all of a sudden like an ease in that, and just like okay, that's okay. And I think that shift of seeing the patterns here being mirrored in another so clearly have kind of like allowed a sense of grief and fear to almost, I wouldn't say dissolve completely, but definitely like moving in that direction, which is pretty cool to witness. That you know, I think in the past when major shifts in relationship or things like that would have been happening, that there would have been like fear and projection, and I've kind of cycled through that stuff actually. And kind of as there was a coming around to like seeing what was trying to be seen, you know, which is what, you know, what I was just speaking to around realizing that there is no other, and that I'm literally interacting with myself in every single moment. And yeah, it's really shifted the way that a situation and events that in the past would have been extremely disorienting and like really rocking have landed here, and that's really interesting. So that may shift, I don't know. That's something has opened, and that's cool. So I just wanted to share, and yeah, we'll see what's coming next down the pipe.